I'm I'm going a different way. I'm just going to do straight out of Zoom.
Oh God,
Oh
he's
God.
gone rogue.
It
Yeah,
says it's
he's gone off
streaming
pace.
live. It says it's
Oh my
live. Are you
God.
live, Nigel?
So which one's live?
Is the
Oh.
chat gone?
Okay, so you're live now on Zoom.
Okay,
So
cool.
you're straight in.
Okay.
Somebody say
That's
something.
it. No, it's there's we're only doing a Zoom tonight, so it's we're
So,
without all fancy
That's cool.
How about we all share the link, on Facebook or something, maybe?
Well, you've got people joining you now, so
Yeah, but just to
yeah, I'll just do
boost
that.
it.
Yeah, we are live.
Okay.
Hello,
Where?
everyone.
Okay. Good.
Oh, we're live. So
Yeah,
people can see us.
Yeah, oh yeah.
we,
Oh, hi! Okay,
We've made
so yeah, we had a little bit of a technical issue, but I think we managed. Well done, Nigel.
No, not really.
And how do we know people can see us?
There you go.
No, that's
to
you
try
have to
to
look on YouTube.
yeah,
We-
I'm watching the chat, and they can definitely see us. I think.
Awesome. So I'll start presenting ourselves then. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for another virtual 3DS, which is great. We have another great lineup of artists here. We are really happy of how this 3DS virtual thing is coming along together. We've been like really happy to do that and being able to reach so many of you like everywhere around the globe. My name is Ioanna, and I am a 3D artist at Inc. and I'll be co-hosting this event tonight alongside with Nigel, Josh. We have Tom. I think we have Fabrice. We have Mark somewhere around in here. So we're a bunch of people from the 3DS. So thank you everyone, and I will start with just introducing a little bit of the speakers and who we have, and then we'll move on with like news and announcements from the industry if we have any. So we'll start tonight with Matt and Emil, who are the great 3D artists that have been the winners of the Archviz, the Rookies Awards this year. If you can wave to us. Hi. Hi guys. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Then we have Dan from Framestore, who is a lead modeler, so he's gonna share some sneak peeks into his work. And then we have Nikos, who's gonna do another great cocktail with like fancy lighting. And at the end we'll have Ivo from Cosmoscube, who is like based in Bulgaria. I'm really proud, like my home country.
Hey guys. Hey guys. Nice to see you.
And yeah, thank you everyone to you tonight joining us and like speaking and presenting your beautiful work with everyone, because it's really, we really appreciate that and like devoting your time to us tonight and to everyone who's watching. And I personally don't have any news to share with you tonight, but I believe Josh and Nigel have some. So if you guys can jump on with some news for me tonight, that'd be great.
Josh?
Josh, you're muted, but you can keep on. Josh, you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm muted. I've just said everything I was going to say as well.
Nice.
Yeah, you all caught that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ioanna. Thank you for welcoming us onto the show. Like Ioanna said, there's some really good presenters tonight. It's going to be a really good show. News, I can only think of one thing that's come up recently, which is Autodesk's release of 3ds Max Indie worldwide. So not worldwide, but to Europe, I believe, which is great news for people. Nigel, have you got some stuff as well?
Well, let's talk about jobs. So I think there's been quite a bit of activity in the last few weeks where, and if I could have shared the production suite that seems to have broken. I was going to show you that Hayes Davidson is looking for people. So is Factory 15. They're looking for quite a few people. And Recent Spaces are also looking. So seems to be London is on the recruitment drive, which is great. Great news.
This
And
is
like
amazing news.
Creative as well, Nigel, I think.
Online creative, yes, of course. And Hayes Davidson as well. So, but back to good old 3DS London days where half the audience used to put up their hands and say that they're employing, and it used to take us about an hour to get through who's hiring and looking for work. So that's a really good sign of things are improving. We should ask Dan how it is in the visual effects world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, it's obviously a tricky time with no one being able to film at the moment, but you know, I think obviously it means that if people don't want to film, then hopefully it means more work is going to come our way when everyone can get back in the buildings. And you know, we've all been working quite strongly from home so far. We've managed to finish some jobs, which is good. There's more stuff coming in and hopefully starting soon, and we're just kind of, yeah, everyone's kind of champing at the bit to really kick off again. Yeah, I think, you know, I think it's a kind of good outlook for next year, all being well, as much as anyone knows, you know, when it's going to start again.
What about across the sort of whole Soho VFX scene? Are you seeing that? Is everyone in the same boat as far as yourself?
Yeah, I think so. From what I understand, I mean, it's been a quite a difficult kind of couple of months for a lot of companies. You know, the VFX margins are quite tight anyway. So, you know, it is the kind of the business end of our creative industry. Unfortunately, it's but I think, you know, come the end of the year, there's a lot of optimism about what could be coming our way. You know, with people not wanting to go to film various things, then, you know, we are a very good option for, you know, keeping the shots that they wanted, but making them, you know, CG. Cool.
Now I've got some other news, which I was going to do a big flash, but now I'm going to try and share my screen. And as our viewers know, I tend to blow up my computer. So, oh, here we go. So one of the things that we are announcing tonight is the next month on tonight, we have been involved for the last 5 months, along with Chaos Group and a whole bunch of others, in organizing a 24-hour meetup around the world. And as you can see, I mean, I'm not going to give you too much information because we're going to publish that soon, but it is, think of it as a pass the mic from one community meetup to the other. And as you can see, we're going from London to Brazil to New York to Montreal, LA, to Vancouver, New Zealand, Australia. We're stopping off in Bali, going to check out the Indian CGI community, and then we're finishing off in Sofia for, at the end of 24 hours, I think we've got like a 3.5-hour European show, and it's going to be loads of fun. So that is this time next month. Hopefully you can join us to see if we can pull this off. There's a whole bunch of people involved, and I'm not going to tell you who the companies are, but you name it, from VFX to Archviz to everyone's involved. So it's going to be great. So
it's going to be everyone for 24 hours, I think. Nigel, this is fantastic news. Congratulations.
This is amazing. Yes.
So very excited, and that it was born essentially. I'll just give you the background story. That was born back in March when Chaos and 3DS London, as one of our sponsors, we were going to put on a great big party after Total Chaos, but back in London. They were sponsoring the whole thing, and of course none of us could get together, so we thought, what else can we do for the community? And it was in fact, I think it was in April, on one of our shows, where we had James from New York, who basically implied, because we talked for so long, why don't you just pass me the mic and we'll just carry on doing it in New York. So that set off the light bulb moment, and we thought, let's just keep doing this. Let's see if we can do it 24 hours. So hopefully you'll join us next month.
You're going to need a lot more cocktails, I think, mate.
I'm ready.
Coffee cocktail. You do Irish coffee in the morning.
We've got all sorts of people involved.
Rosé at lunch.
But anyway, that's all I've got to say on that one. On Monday, I think Chaos and Autodesk will be. You're going to start seeing all the news about it. But yeah, there you go.
Whoa, it's amazing. This is amazing. I'm so looking forward to it. Not sleeping for 24 hours.
Nikos is gonna have a lot of cocktails to make over 24 hours.
Well, I'm a professional now, so yeah, I can make a big list.
Excellent.
Or at least one really, really big one.
You could fill that whole up. You could fill that whole of yours. Margarita it, the whole lot.
We can share many ideas about this, don't worry. And congratulations again for making this happen, seriously. I know it's a lot of work, and I can't believe this is happening. So congrats to you and the rest of the team.
Yeah, amazing. And I just wanted to say that I completely forgot to mention that Jason is with us from D2 today. And I was like, oh my God, Jason, I'm sorry I didn't mention you. So hi, Jason. Thanks for being with us too.
I'm like always here, so, no
Yeah.
problem.
We are obviously missing Fabio tonight.
I'm like the furniture.
No way.
I think, let's talk about D2, upcoming D2.
Yeah, so like a week before the Total Chaos thing, we're not going to do 24 hours. That's too crazy for us. But what we are going to do, and I just wanted to remind everyone who follows the D2, I know it's not everyone here probably watching, but we will also have people from other industries speaking during the D2 live event, which will be every day from the 24th of August to the 28th. So 5 days in a row in the evening from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll have like 3 speakers each evening. This is, of course, a replacement of our annual event, which is usually taking place in Vienna. Of course, like, everything else that's going on, it had to be canceled. Unfortunately, we're really sad about that. But we still wanted to do something for the community. It's free of charge. You don't even have to sign up for it. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. We have the great support of AMD again, of Autodesk, Maxon, and others, Epic Games, and we are really excited to have speakers who will be coming from each of those companies to talk. And another thing that we're doing is we're not going to say who the speakers are. You got to come and see it, and I can promise you there's some very big names coming, and the speakers that we have coming from the different sponsors are also really amazing. We're really looking forward to it, and I would love it if you guys could all join us. I just glanced by the YouTube channel today, and I noticed that we passed 2,100 subscribers today, and that also makes me super happy. And I would love to see 2,100 people watching this D2 online with us. That would be my goal. So, if you haven't subscribed already to the channel, you can see it. You just go to YouTube, look up D2 conferences, you'll find us. And just check it out. Set the reminder. It's 18 days from now. It says right there, live in 18 days. Can't believe it's so close.
Yeah.
And I want to also thank everyone here at the 3ds London, who's from 3ds London, for giving me the opportunity to sit in on these great monthly events that you guys do. It's always so much fun. So I hope to see you all there.
Jason, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are all the speakers from Archviz, or are they coming from different areas?
No, I would say it's a mix. It's a mix of about let's say 60-40. So 60% of the presenters will be Archviz related. And then the other 40% are from VFX, games, and so on.
So if you're interested and if you come from a VFX side of things, there's going to be something in it for you as well.
Yeah, we even have actually one of our speakers is actually not in either of the business. He's from the graphic design background and also sort of a business background. So we're going to have an interesting talk from him that's kind of related to all anyone who is interested in the business of design. So
Jason?
Sorry?
Who was that then?
I was about
That's
to
going to
ask
be
you.
Fabio Palvelli. No, I'm just no, I'm kidding. It's a big guy. It's a big name, and I don't want to spoil it because this is our strategy, and you know, we would love to have people come and check it out. We also want people to be surprised, you know, and to see who comes. It's possible we release some names right before the event, but a schedule we're not going to release. That's going to be, you're going to see it when they come out. That's going to be how it is.
It's like an calendar.
Fair enough.
Exactly. So I would appreciate to see as many as you there as possible, and I can promise you there'll be some really good talks. So
yeah, I'll be there. It sounds amazing.
We'll all be there.
Yeah, we'll all be there.
It's whether our students will be there with their friends. I'm sure they will. There you go. We got some nods going on there.
Yeah, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for letting me, you know, promote this here. So I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for being such a good friend of 3DS.
Yeah, I always have fun.
Yeah. Okay, should we move to like our first presenters for tonight? Yeah. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
We have Mats and Emil. Hi guys.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us.
Let me just introduce them, or do you want to just introduce who are they and why are they here?
Well, you're very welcome to introduce us if you want to. That would be cool.
So, there are two judges from the rookies in the group tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have to.
They didn't know.
You have to guess who they are, but surely, Emil, you should know anyway. Surely.
Yeah.
I know Nigel is a judge.
So, just to recap, anyone who didn't know what the rookies was about, it is I suppose you'd call it. It's the #1 CGI student body and the rookie awards. We had Owen, who's one of the co-founders of it earlier on this year, who joined us just before the competition started. A few years ago, they started to really push into trying to get Archviz students involved. Now, Mads here, who's joined us tonight, seems to have the golden formula for the winning formula, because is it 2 years or 3 years in a row you've won?
2 years, one.
2 years. So, and then Emil you won this year, but you both go to the same school or university.
Yeah.
So I think we and the community would like to know, what is the secret formula that you've got going on? Because how many entries were there this year? There were 300 or 400, and the caliber of work was phenomenal. So that lines it up for you. You came first and second. Let's hear your story.
Thanks, and thanks for the introduction, Nigel. Thanks for having us. It's we've been really excited to join here tonight. As you said, Mads and I both went to the same school, 3D College, and yeah, I think we kind of had planned an introduction, but I think we'll just skip that because you did it quite well. But we should have the PowerPoint up and running, the slideshow. We have some work we want to show you, so we'll talk a bit more about the 3D College and Mads and I's friendship, because we'll come back to that later. But now we want to show a bit of our work from the rookies contest, and we picked like an art piece each. We're gonna talk a bit about the progress real quick. We won't go like super in depth, but we'll go
kind of just like quick overview of what we did.
So I hope it's no secret that we've been a little nervous for presenting this to you guys, because obviously here today we have gathered some of the best professional artists in the industry. So it is we're a bit nervous to introduce this, but hopefully you won't be able to tell too much. So let's move into it.
Yes. Do you want to start?
Yes. So I've chosen to talk about this art piece I did, and it's like in a high rise. So the first thing I wanted to do talk about with this project is I aim to do it in a full 3D scene. So as you can see by the clay render here, most of the whole image is done in 3D. And one of the big challenges for me I have like a relatively weak computer, so I really had to memory optimize the scene in order to make this stuff render. So I had to look into stuff like how you can optimize V-Ray with proxies and like multi-tile mid-mapped textures and stuff like that. So that was sort of the challenge I set for myself and the goal for this project, what I wanted to learn. So I also wanted to design the building myself, and I'm by no means any architecture, and I don't know the design of this stuff, but I found some really nice inspiration pictures. I kind of like these building with rounded corners and these green terraces. So I tried to include that in my render. This is the raw render I did, and so the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to give the image some life. So I composited in like an airplane and a helicopter, some birds, because I really wanted some movement and some life in the image, so maybe I can catch the viewer's attention for a little more than just a second, just make them look at all the things that are moving in the scene. I think it gives so much more life to the image. It also took some time to add the depth. So if you look like on the left side of the picture, you can see like there's these light rays coming in and sort of this, I used the C depth pass to sort of give the image some depth. And here is the final one. And I took the reflection pass and made the windows more reflective because I think that's more realistic on how these windows are in real life. I should probably have done this by the material, but this was kind of like a haggy way to achieve the same thing, just using the reflection pass or the specular pass. And I went for the color grading. I went to try and make it a bit dynamic. So from the left side, I wanted to have this warm light coming in. So I hope you can see, like, if you divide the image down the middle, the left side is kind of warm and the right side is kind of cold, more bluish and desaturated a bit in the colors. And of course, I added some finishing touches like some bloom and glare and a really strong lens flare on the side of the building. And overall, I hope to achieve an image, that has a lot of life in it and is really dynamic and interesting to look at. I think I managed to achieve that, but of course, that's my opinion. I have to say so myself, right? So I'll give it back over to Mads, and he'll talk a bit about his image.
Yeah. So this is an interior image I did at school while I go to 3D college and like switch between school and apprenticeship. So we like get 5 weeks to work on our own projects, and this was one of the images I created. I probably spent around 1 week on it, I think. So this is the title of the work. Oliver Kroner's like 13. I was like just named a random street name just to like, so I don't have to think about it so much. So just like go on Google Maps and like found a random street and put it as the title. That's just like easy way to come up with a title, I think. So for the inspiration, I've went on like a real estate site on a Danish site. So I found like a really nice apartment with a high ceiling. It's like, I really like apartments with a high ceiling. So I got really inspired by that. So, and like big windows and like, I think the wooden beams were also a really nice touch on the apartment. So for the lighting, I went like, always like going about like very Scandinavian look for my projects, like very bright and like black and white, natural colors and that kind of style. So
you seem to like the cloudy HDRIs, right? The ones that give a soft kind of light. Yeah.
Like a couple of years ago, I watched Johannes Lindqvist guide. Like he has one called Scandinavian Complete Guide, and he like talked a lot about the like overcast HDRIs and stuff. So I've done that a lot, but actually this one is a corner sky and sun. But yeah, I also use some LUTs on it, like the Ed Martin soft lights. I use them pretty often. They're pretty good for the like Scandinavian look, and like Johannes also got some pretty good looks for like achieving the Scandinavian look. But yeah, that's the clay render, so you can just see the lighting on the scene. And yeah,
it's really low contrasty lighting, right?
Yeah,
to get that overcast look.
Yeah, I also think the big windows gave the like sunlight really nice feeling. I think you can really see it come into the room. And so I guess my kind of style is really Scandinavian. I guess I'm kind of known for like the Scandinavian style. It's
That's your trademark, isn't it?
I guess so.
Really.
I mean,
it's nice.
Also for this one, I actually kind of tried to like go another style. Like normally my images are very like black and white and green, like just planes and stuff. But this one, I like try to like give it a bit more natural colors, like the wooden beams, the wooden chairs, like the marble table, the marble island, and the wooden kitchen and the back. So I really try to like give it a lot of natural materials and stuff. And then for my kind of style, I really like minimal furniture, like the chairs just like really flat in a way. Like the table is pretty simple too, just like a cylinder and a box on the top. So I always try to keep it pretty minimal and not like super crazy detailed. But yeah, for the composition post, this is the raw image. So I actually did a lot of post on this image. And for my kind of style, I try to like make it kind of look like a furniture magazine kind of way. So like use some sharpening for it too, like give it a bit of contrast. So I'm not like going for like fully photorealistic, kind of more like it's made for a magazine or like Pinterest or something like that.
Yeah, because what tends to happen, right, when you do these Scandinavian look and this soft lighting, it gets kind of flat. So you often have to introduce a lot of contrast and interesting stuff in the post-production, at least in my experience. And yeah, continue, Matt, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, some people dislike this kind of style, like that's a bit sharp in it and like, but personally I really like it. But yeah. So this was a close-up I made for the scene too, like just to like add some more images to the project. Sometimes I even make like up to 7 close-ups of my projects just to like add some more to it in a way. But yeah, so also something I do like to give the image a bit more depth is like with the plant you notice in the like the front here, like just to give the image some depth. Like also done it here with like the leaves up here. I just think it gives the image a nice touch in a way. But
so Mads, I've got a question. Did you, with the close-up and the details, did you model the watch and those assets, or did you acquire them from?
Yeah, I just downloaded the models. I think the watch is from Dimensiva, and yeah, most of the models are downloaded.
You usually spend time like tweaking the shaders and stuff. I notice you do that a lot. Right?
Yeah. On like all the models are downloaded, pretty much tweak all the shaders on them, and like try to optimize the textures and stuff like that, and change the color and such. But yeah.
All right.
Are we allowed to butt in like this with questions?
What's up? What was that?
I was saying, are we allowed to butt in and interrupt like this? I'm really interested about the idea that you create these little vignettes like that. Is that kind of what you would normally do on a normal job as well? Kind of added little freebies to the client, or?
Probably not to my clients, but this is just a personal project I made for my portfolio. But I mean, I can quickly show my portfolio, what I usually do.
Well, actually, I'm going to jump in here and talk about it from the judging point of view, because I had a debrief afterwards, and the reason that you scored so highly And then this really is, if there's anyone watching who also had entered the competition, because as you guys will know, there were a lot of great images in there, but what the judges felt that you showed, so because you dived into so much detail and you did the maquettes and you told the backstory and you really showed why and how you came to that final image by telling that story, showing the chalk renders, and actually just giving the mood boards and everything, and that really responds well with judges.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. That's great.
You did the same thing last year as well. You spent the time actually just developing the mood and the style, all the assets as you've talked about, and it's really important when you're creating an image.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important, like spending a lot of time on your entry, like, and like going in detail, like explaining why you made it and how you made it, and like showing clay renders and such if you want to make a successful entry. Yeah.
Emil, you said you enjoyed the process more than the result, didn't you? So maybe that is, maybe that is part of the what helps to make a winning entry.
Yes, it's actually funny that you mentioned it, because Mads and I are actually two very different artists. I think we have different skills. I think Mads has this really strong style in his images, and you can always recognize when you see a Mads render, you never in doubt this is a Mads render. He's developed a really cool style, and he knows a lot about the style stuff. While I'm more the thing that motivates me to do a 3D, I really like to explore different workflows and different techniques and new things. So it's funny, Mads and I, when we help each other, the kind of questions I come to Mads with is often like, how does this look, Mads? What do you think about my style and my composition and colors? And that's what he can sort of help me with. And Mads comes to me with like, how do I model this? How do I tweak this material? How do I what does this render error mean, and this kind of stuff. So we're two. I think our skills complement each other quite well. And
sounds like you can make a good team together.
yeah, we will, and actually we will in the near future. And in 2 weeks, I'm joining for some internship at the same company Mads is working. So we'll be on the same team very shortly. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's CAD design.
That's only going to be terrible news for the rest of us, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's just we'll see.
Emil, why did you decide to show the tower tonight rather than some of your other projects? For example, the cabin in the woods, I thought was a really nice project.
They've interrupted their presentation.
I think this is because this one I did the most.
It's your fault.
Like I made some really a lot of the decisions I did with this one was very purposely. Like I was purposely thinking a lot about the things I was doing here. So for me, it's easier to sort of explain the progress, and it is my personal favorite. Actually, I've heard from many that this is not the. I think many people prefer the wood cabin, but this one is I hold this one very dear, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a really good answer. I think if you have a bit more intimate feeling with this project, then why not talk about it more? I think that's an excellent answer. I'm sorry, Mads, please continue if you've still got if you're still on track.
We have a bit about 3D College, the school we went to. So this is like a small vocational education. So it's actually not like a university or anything. And part of the program is we have to go to internship at these companies and go back and forth between school and internship, which Mads is currently doing, and I'm looking for internship. So hopefully we'll get on the same team soon. But about the school, it's a really free school in the sense that there's a lot of like the school days are very short, which means you have a lot of time to work on your personal projects, and they're not like forcing you in any direction with your education. You really have to take some sort of responsibility and take charge of your own learning. And so it's really important to spend a lot of your spare time at the school working. And Mads and I was actually roommates at 3D College. We were living together in this small room. What was it, like 10 square meters, 10, 12 square meters. We lived two guys a really tight space, and And the only thing me and Mads really have in common, we don't have much in common, to be honest. But one thing we do have in common is we are very passionate about 3D graphics. So, and I think this is part of the reason we have had this much success. Is we have really pushed each other. I think there's like this internal competition between Mads and I. It's not something we spoke of, but I definitely wanted to be better than Mads, and I'm pretty sure he wanted to be better than me too. So we were kind of like battling, but it was in a really friendly and constructive way, I'd say. And we always helped each other and cheered each other forward. So it was really nice. And like our typical days, we were in school and coming around in the afternoon, just working all afternoon. Probably we always did like late night walks and talked about our 3D projects before going to bed. And I remember our room was always so hot because Mads was rendering every night, or crypto mining, something like that. He was either crypto mining or rendering. So like the room was always super hot. We could never sleep because of the
or Minecraft, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. So you haven't moved into the real-time world yet of rendering, of using Unreal or
we actually did a project together in Unreal, but I mean, we haven't really worked that much in Unreal, both of us, I think.
No, I think you're like a Corona guy, right? And I'm more like a V-Ray guy.
I kind of switch between render engines like every year or so.
But yeah, it's mostly offline rendering. I'm looking very much forward to playing around with Project Lavina though, and I think it's, you know, learning something like Unreal Engine it's a bit much, I think, when you're a student. I hear a lot of the guys starting at free college and they're very worried. Should I learn V-Ray or should I learn Unreal Engine? Which engine should I learn first? And learning both at the same time can be quite overwhelming, I think, for a student or an artist. So I think on 3D College, we focus more on learning, teaching V-Ray and sort of lay the foundation for 3ds Max V-Ray. And the teachers are really good at guiding you in the right direction, I'd say, at the school. So
yeah, but I think for sure when the V-Ray for Unreal Engine 5 comes out, I think for sure I'm gonna look more into it.
It's definitely on the rise, right? Like Unreal Engine is a new thing, and we're always watching out and looking for whichever the industry, what direction that goes, we will follow.
It's interesting because there were a lot of other entries in the finalists that did have Unreal Engine parts to their submissions, whereas you guys didn't have any of that side of things. I mean, yeah, Nigel spotted, hit on something there.
Yeah, I think it's also due to like most companies in Denmark. I actually don't know a single company in Denmark who's moved into real time yet. I think most of them are still using Corona and V-Ray, and so the school is kind of aiming us to get these internships, so they really want to move us in that direction, whichever the Danish industry is taking. But I think we'll see more of Unreal Engine in the near future, right? So
yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah.
So I feel I should be saying something, but you guys are just doing just fine.
Go on, Fabrice, have a little plug.
No. Well, all I could say is look at the latest anti-aliasing in the kind of movie render, and in terms of, and this is like, just came out in the 425, and you can really now compete with the very, very high res renders. And so anyway, carry on.
Well, one thing I would like to say about the school is it's really nice, and it comes with full hospitality. We get a place to live and food. We get computers and licenses. We even get a nice school trip to America. So some of these pictures you're seeing right now on the left top corner, that is Mads and me, obviously, in the top right corner. This is in front of Mount Rainier in Washington, America. So this we spent 4 weeks in America. It's one of the best trips I've had in my life. And all of this is in the Danish education system is practical free for us. So it's been a really nice experience with the school. Sure. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have been that.
Emil, I have another question, Emil.
Yeah, sure.
You can ask your question next, yeah. Emil, I have another question. Why did you elect to do that tower scene in complete 3D rather than use a photo montage?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to admit, I'm not that good in 2D, and actually, I think I wrote this in my entry as well. I tried to show a wide range of skills in my entry. I did a lot of modeling and shading and 3D stuff. But one of the things I'm really not that good at is photo bashing and Photoshop, and it's really something I'm looking into learning at the moment. Actually, I want to improve on that the thing, but I'm really not good at it. But one of the things I'd say about doing in 3D is that it's so easy to see the composition right away. So what I did before I put in the high quality buildings, I was just sort of using a block out, like just placing block boxes, and you can quickly find some sort of composition. Because I didn't use like a reference image or anything. I just, kind of laid these boxes out and tried to fill the street up with a kind of buildings. And then I found some high quality buildings afterwards and replaced those. So I think it's using 3D boxes for the early stage can be quite beneficial, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But I guess it's good to challenge yourself as well. If you want to do, you should. If you're not good at photography, maybe you should do a little bit more.
Yeah, I should. Yeah.
Mads, you're a bit of a photographer as well, no?
Yeah, I did some couple of years ago, but not
Right.
at the moment, but I did some.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the photogrammetry work that you did on the sneaker project, and maybe some other things that you've done with photogrammetry as well?
Again, I think we've interrupted their presentation. Are we?
It's totally fine, guys.
I've done it again, have I?
I think we've already done with the presentation,
Okay.
aren't we?
Yeah,
So
almost.
we questions
But
are nice.
this is some sneakers. Sneakers I did a photo scan of. I think I spent 8 hours total, like retopologizing them, like making the mesh properly. So I did a ultra high version and 1 million polygons, I think, and 130.
We're supposed to see your screen there?
Can you see it?
No, we're still on the US trip.
2 seconds then.
Do you have to unshare this one first?
I think you unshare the screen and then
Working on?
yeah, we can see that now.
Yeah, great. So this is some sneakers I made with photogrammetry. So I just took a bunch of pictures of some sneakers in the real world. I think I took around a bit over 100 pictures, like 130 or so. So, and I just used like a the mirrorless camera. So it's a bit high. It's like 5K the pictures, I think. So it's pretty high res to like get this kind of detail.
What like the setup? Did you have like a backdrop?
Yeah, I just had a back black blanket. So I think it's a method called the void, like where I just have like a total black background and like just like try to make the object kind of float in a way. So it's like everything is total black except for the object. So I think it's a method a lot of people are starting to use in the photogrammetry, at least from the people I see. But
really nice work.
Thank you.
Patting each other on the back here, aren't we?
Mads, you also talk about an upcoming film project as well. Are you going to elaborate a little bit more on that?
I haven't really worked that much on it since like I worked on it the last time, but I think I'm probably gonna finish it. But I mean, it's gonna be like a flying through animation. I try to like aim it to be like a bit over 1 minute. But I haven't really done like big animation projects like that before, so it's a bit new for me. But hopefully it's gonna be finished, I hope. But
do you think you'll be able to get it into the CG Architect Awards this year?
Maybe, actually. Not really sure if I can make it in time, but it will be cool to make an entry for it.
Cool.
We should have the CG Architect Awards in the news as well, Nigel. Actually, come to think.
Right, that was the other thing that we needed to touch on. But I think we can just.
We've done it now.
How are we doing for time?
What?
Does anyone else have any questions for the guys? Do we have anyone left?
We're all here.
I think you guys have a lot of fans on watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Added a lot of friends.
What have
And,
you
yeah,
named that I've not seen.
I want to give a shout out and say hi to the guys out there. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
I think it's because I have a Discord server and a lot of the people on there sitting in the voice chat watching the live.
Right. Well, listen, a like for us is a like for Emil and Mads.
Well, if there are no more questions, I think we would just like to say cheers, guys, and or skål, as we say in Denmark. So
Skål.
Skål, yeah.
Skål, yeah. No, thank you. Great work.
Congratulations to you both. You know, the work is
thanks for having us.
And yeah, I think job well done. Congratulations.
I have one more question. What advice would you give for next year's rookies? If someone's to enter, what would you advise them? Are there any tips that you have?
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, you can go.
One of the things I've like noticed a lot of people do, they don't really spend like that much time on their interest. Like I think it's important, like detailing your entry a bit more, like showing the breakdown, like showing clay renders, viewports, like going into a bit more detail about like the image and like explaining a bit more about it and like stuff like that. And, like
I think one of the things that have helped you and me as well has been like we talked about before, these guys that have showed up in the chat. We have a really nice community around us that are serving as really good support and feedback, and has kept me really motivated for keep going. And I think that is a really, really important tip. Find a good community you can be a part of, and that will help you keep the motivation up for working for it.
Yeah. But I mean, that's also kind of the school. But if you go to a school, that's also really helps with like keeping the motivation up.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of.
I think you also find that the Archviz community is really supportive as well, and I'm sure Jason, if he's still with us, will step in and tell you how central to the European community or worldwide community, I guess, D2 has become. And so we look forward to seeing you there in the future.
Yeah, Mads and I was talking this year about going there physically, but
you'll be the only one
virtually this year, which
you'll be wandering around Vienna by yourself.
Yes.
But I do encourage you both to enter the CG Architect Awards this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And all your friends as well.
We'll pass it on.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, guys. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. I mean, I am a massive shoe fan, so I was so impressed by this, and I was like, oh my god, look at the details. So yeah, really, really cool. I mean, I liked all your projects, don't get me wrong. I just can't really hang on the shoes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, yeah, if anyone else wants to have a look at their work, you can go to the rookies and
I really advise everyone to do that.
I mean, both Emil and Mads both have 5 or 6 really good projects on there. One last question before we move on to the next presenter. What's with the toadstools? There's toadstools everywhere in this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of toadstools.
Toadstools? What is that?
It's like a mushroom, yeah.
Mushroom?
In your images.
You've both got in your portfolio there, no?
Actually, could you share those? Yeah, share.
Yeah, I was wondering too. It was like, why?
I know the Vikings, they used to eat those. So before battle. I don't know if it has anything.
How they went on their trips.
Do you want to share with our viewers? Just flick through some of your other images here, just briefly.
Sure. So this is another image I did at school, like environment. Did a lot of force pack on this one. So
yeah. And of course you can find us on ArtStation if you want to
show some of yours.
Yeah, you want to go as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is this one.
Yeah, this is the wood cabin one. I think Joshua was talking about earlier, right?
So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. Yeah, really nice work there.
Thank you, man.
Another mushroom.
I gotta say my mushroom render was I did this one after mess, so I kind of stole the idea, I guess, a bit inspired. But I hope he's okay with it.
I think there were other mushrooms as well. It wasn't just you two, was it? In the
there are others. It's
yeah, like these are having these mega scan assets is so easy to make these fun small macro images, I guess it is. Add some subsurface scattering to it, and it becomes really sexy. I think these mushrooms. But, yeah.
No, great work. Really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us. It was great. For having you tonight.
Thanks for letting us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
I think it's now time to move to our next presenter, and we have Dan from Framestore.
Or were we going to hold off on Dan to the end?
Oh, okay. Then we don't have Dan next. We changed the schedule. So Dan.
Almost in there.
Yeah, Dan. You'll be third. So we have Ivo from Bulgaria.
Yeah, thank you.
Tonight.
Thanks
Hello.
for having me tonight. Hello.
Yeah, hi. I'm really, really happy to have you tonight, as you're one of my favorite studios in Bulgaria, and I'm really proud you're Bulgarian. So thank you for agreeing to be our guest speaker.
And thank you for having me. We try our best. We just changed the schedule, so I feel really excited to be here now. But I decided to have this like chill environment here in the office. In order to be like more, to feel like in my own waters, So welcome.
Thank you. It looks really cozy and super nicely lit as well, and quite a spacious studio. Where's the studio based? Is it in Sofia or?
Yeah, we are based in Sofia, and since the beginning, we found the studio back in 2015, almost 6 years ago, and we work here in Sofia, and we have also another office in Plovdiv, if you know it, a pretty Bulgarian town. And from the beginning, we are working into the architecture visualization field, and we try not to deliver just pretty images, but in parallel to deliver like a high quality service as well. Because one thing for our industry recently is that you no longer get in front of a client just with a pretty image, a bunch of pretty images. You need to do better than that. So we always try to imagine ourselves like sitting. If you imagine a table and you are sitting on that table with your client, and you are not across the table, like arguing with them or educating them, which is something modern to say educate your client, but we try to look at the collaboration as we are sitting next to them and we are collaborating with them on their project, and we are both in the same let's say battle against the competition jury or their client or the government, which have certain things regarding the project. So we try to imagine ourselves as working along with our clients next to them. I guess now I need to show what I've prepared as some sort of a demo reel. Can I share my screen now? if you guys able to see it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
I hope it has sound. If you cannot hear, just let me know.
To just continue to be able to express myself as best as I can. You know, I feel like I have a lot of work to do still. I'm a student of the drums. And I'm also a teacher of the drums too, you know. And I would like to be able to continue to let what is inside of me, which comes from all the music that I hear, you know, I'd like for that to come out. And it's like, it's not really me that's coming. The music's coming through. Music's coming through. Music's coming through. Music's coming through. Music's coming through.
That was it.
Such a great choice of music too.
Let me share again the screen. That's not the right one. Let's jump into my presentation here. And now, what I'd like to talk about is not straight presentation of our recent work. Rather than that, I'd like to talk about a certain line of thoughts that I had in the past few years regarding the. I'm just checking if you guys are there, because I lost my screen, but you are with me, right?
Yeah, and we can see your screen too.
Okay, let me go again into that. And it's a line of thought that I had regarding some of the problems that I can identify into the working process when you are working with clients, and I'd like to look at the participants into the process, which basically are artist and client, and I'd like to identify problems when you are working with and collaborating with architects, and I'd like to propose some solutions to this kind of problems. And these solutions, I call them tools with which we can do better, basically. So I will start from down to going upwards with looking at the typical artistic profile. So let's say something about a typical artistic personality. Presentation is going. So typical artist is, I will look at this kind of a person and identify one main characteristic and one trend. The main characteristic of this kind of person is that he or she is someone who is very introverted. and therefore he has lots of feelings, lots of emotions going on inside of him, but doesn't communicate these things through talking or through acting. He's accumulating emotions inside of him, and then he's revealing himself with his work, his creative work, being an illustrating person or being a musician. As an artist, you show yourself through your work. And we have also one tendency here, one trend going on, which is that the artistic person identify himself by the work that he did. So if I can say, the motto of an artist is my work, that's me. That's what makes these kind of people so like sensitive to the word coming next, which is critic. And I'd like to look into the critic, not into its negative meaning. I'd like to look at it on its positive meaning. And I'd like to go even further to look at the critic in its positive meaning, because this is the main driving force for each of the artists to make them better as creative people. So without critic, we cannot be better. That's why I'd like to look at this little word very positively. And if I can give advice to the younger, to people with less experience, I would say go and find someone who is better than you, who has like really high quality work. Go to this person and ask them questions, ask them to give you critique, which will make you advance further your creative skills. And one other thing for the critic is that this is the main tool of communication between a typical client and a typical artist. That's why we have what we have next is the architect, which is a typical client, and I would say it's one of the worst clients. And I will look at the architects again as to identify one main characteristic and one tendency. And the main characteristic is the same as with the 3D artists, as most of the 3D artists are also graduated architects. They are basically pretty much the same kind of a personality of an introvert person. But the difference is into the tendency, where we have architects as a client. So they have the tendency to also identify themselves with their work, with their architectural project. Therefore, they would like to touch every little detail and to control everything, because this is their own work. This is like their own baby, and they start to be picky, and they start to emotionally connect with the project, and they just work each and every night, and they work in the same manner with all the studios that they are collaborating with. So they are, if I can say, they are, the tendency here is that they go into micromanaging the process, and they go into trying to be the art director of the architectural visualization project. So I can define one little problem here, which is usual for all the guys working into Archviz field, and this is the big list of comments coming from the architects in the form of the PDF file with all those red boxes filled with words saying, make this brighter, make this bigger or smaller, move this, move that. This is somehow this is maybe the main problem that most of the studios have. The never-ending rounds of commands. But is this the real problem that we have here? Maybe we need to look elsewhere, not only into the clients or into the profiles of the artists. We need to look at what was the process and how most of the studios work. I'm not saying that I know the industry from the beginning, but I believe that most studios work like this in the past years. Making the process of creating one image into several stages, for example, 4 stages, and we have clay render as the first stage, then we have draft or first preview, then we have an advanced preview and the final image. And keep in mind, these are not 4 separate images, these are 4 separate stages, and we have plenty of images in each stage, and we have plenty of iterations between each of the stages, and most of the time the iterations happen between the final image and advanced image, and we end up with a final image basically in the deadline. The other situation is when the client really loves the image, but most of the times, I would say 90% of the time, we end up with the final image on the deadline because the project is never finished. So as most of the studios work like this, is this something that we need to be like, we need to worry about? Because we are into the side of the majority, they all work like that. What's wrong here? Is there something wrong here with this kind of workflow? And I will go with a quote from Mark Twain here, who said, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. So this was our time to rethink how we work and how we can get better. And it started with a recent project, which was this project. This is a project in Morocco. We have a client who said, I would like you to help me with making 6 images for a project in Morocco. I have the model. I need you guys to deliver 6 images. We were discussing budget, we were discussing schedules, and we started in the same manner that we knew with the clay renderings. And we deliver in the first stage, not only 1, 2, or 3 clay renders, but we deliver 82 clay images into the beginning of the project. This is a screenshot with some of the clays, but they are basically more or less the same. And back in time, we were thinking that we are doing a great job. And I also put down a portfolio where I was basically bragging with that. We did, look at us, we did 82 clay renders. We work 7 business days and stuff like that. But recently I realized that this was not the right approach to this kind of a project, because we have our client asking us for help, and they were asking us to propose something in terms of views that's working, in terms of mood and stuff like that. And what we did was we basically moved around the model, and we were shooting random photos, and it was somehow equal to just giving them back the model and saying, here is it, just look in perspective, make some screenshots, and that's it. And in this kind of a way, we didn't steer the process. We just gave the steering wheel to our client, and rather than giving them guidance, which was the thing that they are asking for, we gave the control to them, and they are looking at some rough images, and they are saying, okay, these guys don't know what they are doing, so we need to do our thing as an architects, as project leaders, and we need to go in and provide these guys with this art direction. So about the art direction, I would say that it's something that we need to constantly win when we are working with clients, because when we show them in the early stage some very rough images, they say, okay, we need to direct these guys. But rather than that, we need to think how to use our brains to deliver something in the beginning of the process, which is not so rough. Basically, I look at the art direction like it has 3 components, and it's work. It's the work done into the beginning, it's the time spent into the beginning, and it's the thinking part into the beginning. Thinking, I mean creative thinking, I mean artistic thinking, which directs the process. And these things needs to stay with us, with the creative studio. So we spent our time, we spent our working efforts, and we spent our thinking efforts into this direction, not our clients. This strategy gave our client freedom to work on their side of the project, the architectural one, in most of the cases, because we work, most of our clients are architects. So how can we show into the really early stage something that seems to our client as a finished product? I'm not saying that we are the first people that invented the draft view, but it was something that we discovered. We were going to conferences. We were basically aware of what's happening into the Archviz industry, and that's something that emerged. I think it comes to my attention maybe around 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not aware if there are some of the studios working with draft images into the beginning of each project back then. But I see now that most of the studios are going in this direction. They are not working anymore with clay renderings, and rather than that, they work with draft images. What is a draft image? Basically, it shows the mood, it shows the composition, it shows all the elements, all the textures into the image, but just in lower resolution. And when you show a bunch of draft images to the client, they just they don't get so raw input, and they kind of go they become calm, and they're okay. These guys have like flying start, and I would like we to move forward with this image or with that image, but we are not receiving so many commands into the beginning of the process. And where is the draft image into the overall process of the overall production process? It's into the pre-production stage, when we have early communication with our client, we basically ask them a spectrum of questions regarding their projects, their vision, what's important for them, what's important for the surroundings, stuff like that. We have a few brainstorming sessions in-house or with our clients through an online meetings. And in this case, we are working with a draft or basic model provided by our clients, and we are delivering draft images. And then into the next stage, basically the production stage starts when we receive what's called final model or refined model from architects, from our clients. And then we move to high resolution images and final products and final renders. Yeah, basically draft images are placed into the pre-production stage. What I have here are some thumbnails of so-called draft images. The reason that they are small is because I'm not able to show you some of the projects that lies here. So I'm going to the next slide. It's a pity that we are working so much into the competition, into the architectural competitions, and we are not allowed to share any work until the competition is over and until hopefully our entry wins the competition. Otherwise, these projects are never shown. In the best case scenario, we can show a project, for example, after 2 or 3 years of advancing the next stages in terms of architectural project and building. Some more draft images. As I said, these are very early stage images placed into the pre-production stage. Roughly, they are made in around 2, 3, or 4 days after receiving a model, depending on the complexity of the model, and of course, of the time schedule for the project. And this here is an example of how the draft image work. This is a draft image to the final image. And what I'd like to show here is the difference between them, which is very minor. For example, here we have only people added, and then we have touch-ups here and there. We have, if you look closely, we have a refined model, but we have pretty much the same image, just a lower resolution on the left-hand side and higher resolution to the final image on the right-hand side. So it makes it very easy with this kind of a workflow to get to the desired results in a less time. And the second thing that is valuable here is that we are keeping the artistic ego untouched. We have something that the artist has put his soul into. We have the draft image in the beginning, and then we have the final image, which is basically pretty much the same. So we are keeping the ego of the artist, which is a huge success, of course. How to get to these kind of images real quickly is when you are working with visual references. And before working with visual reference, I'd like to talk about the 3 stages of creativity, or 3 forms of the creative process. We have, as a first level of creative process, we have imitation. As the second, we have the interpretation. And on the third stage, we have the innovation. And when we are working with a visual reference, it's good and it's essential to start from the beginning, from the imitation. Before we are able to mimic an image 100%, it's better not to jump into the interpretation part, where we are working with our visual background as artists, where we are working with our knowledge, where we are working with different tools, or we have different output than the image that we are being inspired of. So before that, we need to take a look at the imitation. And something about the innovation, let's say something about it, is that it's never, the innovation is never clean, because I'm not sure whether a pure innovation exists right now. I think that we have something similar into the AI, where they are given the AI to learn by having a game against himself. Maybe this is some sort of an innovation. Other forms of creativity are maybe some advanced form of interpretation. So back into references, I said that we need to start from the beginning, where lays the imitation, and this is the guide, the script to follow in order to make a visual reference. We have here an image, and first thing that we need to do is to start with the composition and to match the frame. We have here we have a square frame, so we set the square frame into our rendering software, and we are done with the first step. Then we jump to camera setup. So we have here our vanishing points, or we can research the photo, the photo if there is information about the focal length in millimeters, and with this information we can match the camera exactly as it is, and then we jump to objects. What we have here, and what we have in most of the architectural photographs or city images, is a house, no matter how big it is. I call it a house. It may be a high-rise, it may be like here, a cabin into the woods, but we always have a house. So we start with this. We model the house, then we add the foreground, the background objects, just little details, and we are done with the next step, and we get into the mood. First thing is the sky, because as you know, it's in most of the cases it takes very large area of the image. So in other words, sky sets the mood. So we have with the V-Ray sky and some color correction. So with HD, working with an HDRI, we can mimic the sky. Then we jump into lighting settings. We need to look here, the visual reference that we have. We need to look at the sky and into the all of the objects, because it's oftentimes photographers took several different expositions, and they do some post-production to make the sky not so much burnt out, and to light up a bit the objects foreground and the main object. So we need to think about that when we are rendering with something that will mimic this photo. So when we are done with exploring the lighting setup, we go to match the lighting color. As you know, each light have its lighting temperature, but we need to keep in mind that certain lights hit certain surfaces which have different colors. So we might have, for example, here we might have two light bulbs with the same color temperature, but we can have here the left side a little bit more yellowish surface than here at the right hand side. So when we identify how the lightning interacts with the surfaces, we can go to the next stage, which is to match the shadow color. Basically, we divide the colors to shadow colors and light colors. And if we had the sun here, for example, we will need to match where the sun hits the facade and where we have the shadow. Here we don't have a sun, so we just match the shadow, which is basically everything what's illuminated by the sky. And when we have a perfect match for each of the elements here, we can say, okay, we are done with our image. And this here is an exercise that we are doing in-house from time to time. Working with a visual reference, we have a predefined model, and we enter into the 3ds Max scene with the model of the building, and then we have around 2 hours, between an hour and a half and 2 hours, depending on the complexity of the reference. We have this much time to match all the elements that I just told you about, and then these are the results from one of our exercises. If you look closely, we have some pretty much the same atmosphere in each of the images, and some of the images are really, really close to the original one. And we have one rebel as well here. So this is working with references is basically a tool which is very good to be used to produce really quickly draft images. And these draft images are something that we show into the first part of the process. Let me go and show you one more video, which is how we are going through the process of matching a reference image. Почвай. По принцип ви чуваме много слабо. I would just mute the audio because I don't need it. So basically this is, here we have here we look at the images that could possibly work well to be matched, and we end up with this image, and then we jump into 3ds Max, working on the 3D model. Of course, really roughly matching it. Then we move to matching each of the objects into the frame. We set the frame size same as the initial image that we have. We start to work around with objects. We start to work with textures. We build very roughly the background hill, and yeah, we work with texturing, materializing the thing.
Ivo, I'm a bit concerned. Why are you not working with the dark UI?
Dark UI, I'm not aware of that term, dark UI.
Oh, the user interface in Mac.
The dark one, yeah. Yeah, it's very bright.
Excuse me, could you just repeat it for me, because I didn't quite get it, the DQI.
The user interface in 3D Studio Max, you can choose between a light one and the dark.
Okay, yes. So what about the light one?
I was just wondering why you're using the light one rather than the dark one.
It's an interesting detail indeed, because it's actually me who is recording this kind of a tutorial or experiment here, but I'm sitting not on my own computer. It's the Evgeny's computer, and he prefers the white one because he can see when we have a light turned off, it's a little darker, and sometimes you cannot see it. And when you have all those little buttons illuminated in yellow, you just read them better. But for me personally, I prefer the dark user interface. Yeah, I hope that was the question that you have asked.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, and here I'm looking into shadows and lights that I mentioned before, and I'm trying to mimic those as well. Really slight adjustments and color corrections to nail the desired look. And it goes on and on like this until the end.
Oh, sorry. Can I just mention, because we're advancing a little bit with the time and I'll be a nasty host here, that you have around like 5 to 10 minutes left?
I'm basically done with all the information that I would like to give you regarding the agenda. I'm done with it. Okay, for the end, I would say that when you're working into this kind of creative, perhaps in each of the creative fields, but when you're working into the image making field, if you show something to, for example, to your client or for someone that you need to satisfy, if you show them something that's looking natural, that's looking finished from early on, they will be satisfied from the beginning and they will jump into working with you with, let's say, a positive attitude. And when you start showing them really rough materials, maybe this is not the right strategy. So this is briefly what I'd like to say to you, and I hope we can discuss something that was interesting into my presentation, and thank you again for having me here.
Thank you very much for being our guest as well. Yeah, I think I had a question in the beginning. You said something that is like artists are mostly introverts, and I was like, well, I'm a massive extrovert. So yeah, do you really like, can you identify yourself as like an introvert? And you obviously are the founder of the studio as well.
Yeah,
right,
one of the founders. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like interested.
Okay.
Why would you think
we were actually discussing this here right before the presentation, because I'm talking about it not for the first time. And what I mean by this is that it's really comfortable to me to look at the artist and identifying them just by their characteristic. And by introvert, what I mean that most of the artists that I have the chance to work with or to talk to them, let's say the better that they are, the more introvert they are, and the more they have stored inside of them. They have like a warehouse. They eat as much as they can from all of the work around them, and they accumulate the information, the feelings, everything, and then this thing just pop out of their heads. So
yeah, I do understand. Yeah, I mean, I understand your point. It was just like an interesting thing you said, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to bother you this way.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Tell us about your team. How many people work for your company?
Right now we are 15 people, 11 here in Sofia, and 4 people team in Plovdiv.
And the guy behind you who's been there all night, does he live there or send him home?
Yep.
You're a hard taskmaster, master.
It's an interesting discussion here. We are just finalizing 2 big projects. That's why we need to work a bit extra in the extra hours.
Deadlines. Yeah, I think we all of us understand and can relate.
But it's something that I feel proud of is that we are not working so much into the weekends. For example, we try to. For example, I have a statistic, and I'm not sure how much can I remember now, but I believe that since the beginning of the year, it has been 1 or 2 weekends working, and in past years, I was working on the weekends even more. I mean, 50% of the weekends we are working.
I'm really happy this is improving, as you said.
This is something I feel proud that we improved recently.
Yeah, happy to hear that.
Ivo, I was really hoping you would talk a little about the amazing work you all did on the Lisa Soho building for Zaha Hadid.
Yeah, I was curious to hear about
next
this.
time.
Can you tell us a little bit about this project, perhaps? Or you?
Yeah, I can talk about it. It's not a problem. It's public already, and I'm able to talk it as long as I want. So this was actually first collaboration with Zaha Hadid that we did. We worked on this project, and we did just 1 image in the beginning, which is maybe one of the images that we became famous for.
Is that the green one, maybe?
Nope. Let me share again the screen and I will show you. Is it here? Not the green one. We have it on our website. Let me go into. It's the hero shot, the night image. If you something pops in your head, it's this one. Not this one. Not this one. Second.
Yeah, lovely. I saw it. I did see it. It's beautiful.
This one. This was the first ever image that we did with Zaha Hadid, and we worked really hard to deliver this quality here, and I think that this initiated the process working with them, and there happened some more rounds of images needed. The building was quite into the stage of, let's say, right before they start building it actually, and this was the time that we jump into the project. The next images are a second stage of the same projects. We have here the underground connections, shop fronts, have the interior, which is basically, I think there's no difference with the real one. We had really advanced models provided by them.
Yeah, and that's always a massive help, isn't it?
Of course, this is a massive help, but it has its downsides, because here you have really huge Rhino scene, and when you convert it and start working in 3ds Max, you just start crying in the beginning. So it's
You,
a lot of optimization to get it.
you filmed this as well, yeah.
Excuse me, can you come again?
You made a film for the project as well.
Oh, yeah. This is like a final stage. They needed to roll out the building. They needed to present it to the world, and they said let's do an animation. It was easier for them to do it in 3D. It was one of the interesting projects that I had recently, because we were developing the music, also working with a musician.
Yeah, I wanted to ask as well that the music's from Cosmocube as well, yeah.
Yeah, we worked with a musician, and it was really outstanding experience. I cannot describe it. It was because we have a deadline. They will launch the building, and they will have a party night, and it was in China, and they're a bit different culture than us, and we needed to deliver this in time, and we needed to develop the audio, and we worked with the musician where it was basically experimenting until we find the right language in terms of audio. So it was really hard, but on the other side, it was really interesting, and it was really made us better the next time.
Incredible stuff, Igor. I think from everyone here at the at 3D Meetups, thank you so much for sharing with us your process and the details on how you approach your work. I think yeah, it's been really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for having me.
I think. Oh, sorry. I'm just very thirsty for a cocktail from Nikos, and then we have done as well. So yeah, let's jump on into Nikos. I'm finished my wine, so I'm patiently
I'm
waiting.
the only one drinking cocktails here. People having beer and wine. Great presentation so far. Thanks, guys. So today I would like to make something very refreshing. It's officially summer, as you know. So I would like to make watermelon martini.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I'm gonna use vodka. My area is actually very popular for watermelon. So I just got one today and it was amazing when I tasted. So I'm gonna use in the shaker watermelon, vodka, a simple syrup that I made plus fresh lime. And for the music, I'm gonna go with disco from 1983, the song called Are You Automatic? Yes. And I sing one of my lights with the music. So we'll have like a small party between them as a break, okay? So let's start the music, and I'm gonna go there and do the show and then come back to say cheers, guys. So this is my space they wanna create for the drinks.
Cameras, Nikos.
Sorry?
I said quick, swap cameras.
It's just a button, you know. I like these tricks. Now, check out what's gonna happen when I play the music. Yeah, baby. Uh-huh.
We have the disco effect as well.
Okay, let me go there.
Just don't be naked when you come onto the camera, for God's sake.
Especially because the camera's at waist height.
Okay, so we'll have the shaker, as I promised. I have here slices of watermelon. I'm gonna just make it full.
Down it, down it.
There you are.
Yes.
Nice, beautiful, refreshing cocktail.
Lovely. Wow.
You guys like the song?
Yeah.
It's from Italy in 1983. I was just 1 year old back then. It's a good song. So let me try this first so I can judge. Oh, mama, it's really good. It's really, really good. Tastes amazing. You have a nice color from the watermelon. It's so easy to make, guys. So you just go there, buy some watermelons and go crazy. You know, it's summer, invite your friends, have some good time.
Nikos, this is really dangerous.
Of course, well, I'm dangerous. So, you know, yeah, I thought to make something refreshing, something nice, something different. So hopefully you enjoy the recipe. It's really nice, actually.
Yeah, definitely I did. So you put like 75 mil into one.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Well, I'm a big guy, so
Okay.
75 ml, and then the watermelon, Yumadu, fresh lemon, and the syrup. Something simple with sugar, and that's it. You don't need anything else.
Awesome.
You're good to go. You have 3 of these, and you can hear helicopters. It's great.
Well, sounds good to me as a Wednesday drink.
I've only had one and I'm getting an echo.
I heard an echo.
So whoever, have you guys tried this before? Like any from this group?
Yes.
No. Oh, I haven't.
It's a good show. I mean, you can get it anywhere. In London, the best place, it's called Eclipse. It's in South Kensington. Oh my God, that's one of the best places to have a cocktail, and especially watermelon martini. It's
on my list now. Thanks,
yeah, that's right. When I was living there, I was going like every weekend. It's a good time. So if you have any more questions about my drink, then I can...
No, you can enjoy it. Thank you very much for giving us another idea for a lovely cocktail on a Wednesday night. I would definitely try this one too.
And I give some nice introduction to Dan as well, which I'm really looking forward to listen to the presentation.
Yeah.
And finally, is your turn, Dan?
Yes,
very much.
Dan.
I'm not sure how I follow that exactly.
Thank you for being with us tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to try and share this again, if it works, hopefully. Yeah, right. So hello everyone. Yeah, it's really good to be here. I'm going to swap these over so you don't have to look at my notes. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about our work on his Dark Materials. You know, it was a really fun show to work on, and I kind of really enjoyed the books to start with in the first place. So yeah, very brief introduction to myself, if this is going to work. So yeah, I've been at Framestore for about 5.5 years. Worked on a few films in that time, sorry, before that I was working in the commercials industries, and even before that I was kind of working with retail interior design, so kind of max visualizations, but that was quite a while ago now. So on Dark Materials, our main kind of problem or our main task was to make the demons, amongst a whole load of other things, but you know, this was the thing that we were most excited about. We had about 50 creatures all in. We split them by family, so different offices had different things. So we had all the cats, the monkeys, the mustards, the birds, which were probably the most difficult build, we never knew, which is something quite strange for us, is we never really knew which one was hero, because all of them, based on the children's demons, they could all be the hero character, because they keep changing characters all the way through. So we were constantly trying to make sure that the quality was as high as possible across the board. Usually we can tell that, you know, this one's a bit more background and so on and so forth. So that was really quite tricky. Yeah, so we normally only have one bird to do when we do a show. They're always quite difficult, and then this one we had 7. So yeah, we had multiple different kind of types of bird as well. Hawks and chaffinches and magpies and ravens and a whole load of other things. There was a whole load of insects which we started to build as well. And so we had this stag beetle here, and we had butterflies and moths and various other things. We at one point actually kind of entered into a bit of a competition with our Montreal office, where they would start. We presented our animals in these animation vignettes. So when we were trying to get sign off for each of the creatures, and they would try and make their characters eat ours. So we had a kind of lizard eating one of our butterflies at one point, which became quite at least a bit more of an extra bit of entertainment for us.
Dan, I'm looking forward to the outtakes reel later on.
Oh yeah. Well, that would have been nice. Unfortunately, I can't show you those things. It's kind of they're the client's domain, unfortunately. But yeah, so I'm going to focus on this guy, on the monkey, because he was the thing that I had direct responsibility for. You know, across the board.
So Dan, just to stop you for a minute, is this entire scene rendered then? The background, everything?
No. So the environment, actually, the whole the sets they built on this on Dark Materials were absolutely, you know, phenomenal. Like the details, and at one point when they go to a kind of northern or Arctic Circle kind of fishing village, they told us that they were going to build this whole set, and we thought, you know, that's probably unlikely, and we're going to have to do a bit of set extensions and all that kind of stuff. And actually, when it got to the shoot, it was absolutely, you know, it was a mini town. People were coming across it in Wales, and, you know, wondering why it wasn't on the map. So yeah, this apartment is actually all set. So it's not actually a real apartment at all.
So they didn't shoot on location like for like stuff. They built everything.
Yeah, they built it. This is all built. This was on a soundstage, which is yeah, and then obviously it makes our kind of life getting cameras in there, because actually at some point they go in that vent on the right hand side of the picture. They actually go in there as well. So, you know, it's all kind of yeah, it's all kind of extra.
So is that then all replicated in 3D for you to then, you know, put the monkey in here where he is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually get the whole set. Every set that we do, we kind of get LiDAR scanned, so laser scanned or LiDAR scanned, sorry. And we then get that mesh into 3D. We kind of generally have to kind of poly reduce it, because I think each of the sets seems to come in at about 30 million polys at the moment. Wow. It's all very detailed. Any of the shiny surfaces are a bit of a nightmare, because, you know, they reflect the scan around, so you end up with quite a lot of noise. So we end up having to kind of a lot of the rest of our task is actually to deal with the sets. One of the major things about Dark Materials was because, like, every character or every person character that was in this world had a demon. So everywhere they went, they had a kind of CG companion. So every single place that they kind of walked, and we had to kind of recreate in some respect, and then use that geo to cast shadows and, you know, reflections and what have you. So, you know, that was a kind of fairly monumental task of splitting up materials, because obviously you can see here it's like the floor's reflective and the walls aren't. So, you know, placing light bulbs and, you know, making sure that all the lights are in the right place, you know, in 3D space, to make sure that the lighting kind of matches for our characters as much as anything else.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, that was a huge extra bit of our task, but, you know, it's kind of one of the kind of the ones that no one really talks about. I think we worked out that it was kind of 2,100 shots in total. So a vast proportion of that had some sort of CG element in it.
Wow.
So obviously across 8 episodes, an hour each. We're kind of looking at a few films worth of time. Anyway, so if we're kind of going on to these guys, then how do we build our characters? Actually, we kind of try and build everything from the inside out. There's a kind of rough sculpt path anyway. We design the characters as much as possible, but we always kind of fall back towards reality. So skeletal reference, muscle reference. We try and get as much of the kind of real true life anatomy of our characters to then build everything else on top of. So we get our lockdown proportions. We make sure that the kind of all the articulation points are in the right place, the skull's the right size, and then it's a case of, because if we make the underside of it too thick, or too fat, then the fur doesn't look right, or the overall silhouette is compromised. So we always start with this kind of very meticulous as much as possible. I mean, some of these creatures are very difficult to find reference for, and you kind of come across these random little finds on the internet with golden snub-nosed monkey skeletons, which is a eureka moment in some cases. So we build our full skeleton, and then we kind of try and solidify those proportions by sitting it over poses, basically. So we take poses of references is absolutely key in anything you're trying to recreate reality. So we try and make sure that our character can achieve these poses, and kind of it creates the same thicknesses and the same silhouettes as much as possible. And that really helps us to kind of really solidify our anatomy, and then all the deformations that the rig and the animators are then kind of allowed that they put the creature into are more likely to be consistent, or to be as realistic as possible. So I'm just I thought I'd try and show you the muscle system that we actually build. So you can kind of see, as much as possible, we get every muscle in. We've kind of recreated the skull based on those references that you saw. All of these are then taken and simulated. We when they flex the muscles, we kind of create a tension shape, what we call a tension shape, which is kind of gives like some sort of tensing shape change that we can use to then drive the shape of the simulation as well. And the rig and the creature effects artists can then kind of tailor the amount that the muscle wobbles based on whether the muscle is tense or whether it's not tense. And then on top of that, then we add the skin over the top. But once this is kind of in a good place, then we know that we're pretty confident that our deformations are going to work, and the volumes are going to be preserved. So after that, we start to build our main character. So normally we build at this resolution, so it's a bit easier to deal with. All the UV sets are worked on this version. We kind of do any of the kind of technical tasks on this guy. We've built the eye geometry all at both resolutions, so we kind of split. We split as many bits out so we can kind of create different shader groups, obviously, for different objects. And then there's quite a long backwards and forwards with the look development team, who kind of tell us how curved the cornea is supposed to be, and the kind of general projection of the iris, and we kind of try and find as much reference as we can to try and make everything as realistic as possible, and to try and make sure that it kind of plays nicely with the light. Yeah, so that is, we also, you know, just on a point of silhouette, because we always try and mock up a kind of rough fur volume, fur proxy, just so that originally it was just so we could kind of gauge rough silhouettes. I mean, it's kind of fairly rudimentary, but you know, the groom changes so much about the character that we really kind of need that silhouette to kind of judge, you know, distance between the eyes and the kind of overall face shapes and the hand, you know, hand sizes and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, having this kind of slightly alien-y looking character doesn't necessarily sell this kind of what is going to end up being kind of a warm and cuddly looking creature. Let's pull this back. So yeah, that's the anatomy, and like I said, all the characters go through the same process. So, you know, here you can see the kind of end result of, you know, albeit on a different character. You know, Yorick went through exactly the same process as the monkey. You know, this is how we, and then this is how we use it. So you can kind of see that the skeleton drives the muscles, and then the muscles drive skin on top. And in Yorick's case, we actually had a kind of extra layer in the middle, which was a kind of tetrahedralized mesh, which kind of simulated fat. So we had got that extra kind of jiggle and wobble that you'd kind of hope to get from something that's kind of, you know, slightly blubbery. You know, we get the collisions of the fur on the extra character, and we get the you know, the collisions of the fat on, you know, between characters as well. So yeah, the idea being that, you know, everything looks as realistic as possible. So yeah, and then from that point we go for the details. So, you know, once we've got our kind of whole structure in, it means that the rig can start going, the texturing can start working. You know, all the technical kind of aspects are in the model, and we then kind of try and dive in, try and find as much reference as possible, and you know, a lot of the time we've found a hero image that the client signed off on, and we kind of we cast each of the characters against a certain image. Either we pick it, or hopefully it's been picked by the client. With the snow leopard, we actually went and found a snow leopard who was a local snow leopard, if there is such a thing. And then we had a lot more reference and realistic kind of camera angles. So we tracked the head, and we used those cameras to then line up, you know, to make sure that our face was, you know, as close as possible, you know, albeit with the discrepancies that fur creates. So at this point, you know, when we're diving into the details, you know, we start to add in pore detail. We start to add in the kind of the wrinkle lines. We try and emulate the kind of reference points that we've found and that have been kind of agreed, you know, that work for the design. This is again kind of quite a backwards and forwards process. You know, in some, you know, most of the time, from the modeling point of view, we deal with the kind of the primary and secondary forms, and then, you know, some of these we want the work that texturing are doing and the work that's kind of coming later with the groom to kind of all tie in together. So a lot of the kind of high frequency details are actually laid in by texturing, and then we kind of use them, we kind of pull them back into the model, into the sculpt, and then we kind of work into the details to make sure that everyone's kind of working in the same areas and kind of highlighting the same points. In some cases, we'll actually take a kind of very a small kind of dot, almost like an occlusion render from the base of the groom, and then we'll use that as the kind of pore detail to kind of really bed the fur into where the fur joins, where the fur starts to grow, basically. You know, we obviously it's mainly covered in fur, so, you know, there's kind of not, we try as much as possible not to kind of burn time where it's not used, but there's several moments where you now see his hands, so then we kind of push a little bit more detail with some of that extra reference. into the hands to make sure that they kind of hold up. You know, this is probably missing a fine layer of detail. I think they probably in texturing would have added things like, you know, fingerprints and you know, stuff from you know, texture XYZ or surface mimic as you know, as their kind of you know, the reference and the utilities to kind of build out all these extra details. So we try, you know, the more we see, you know, we find a shot that kind of shows the area that we need extra work in, and we try and up that. I'm guessing the feet didn't get quite so much didn't get quite so much love. So yeah, and then obviously, you know, he kind of, we have a few shots where he starts to scream at the camera, and so we kind of try and hopefully this opens. Where's the way? Yeah. So it was quick saving at the same time, I think. So we will then kind of go in and make sure that we've got appropriate detail for the sculpt of the gums and the sculpt of the cheeks to make sure that they kind of catch the light nicely. You know, the shape will have come from shapes that we've been using in animation. So yeah, that kind of, all those details then get kind of pushed back in and used and modulated in LookDev as much as possible. And the final result looks like this. You know, we can see that hopefully the fur is kind of consistent with the detailing. You know, the areas that we do see through are actually you know, have been detailed to an appropriate level for how close they're seen in the shot. Try and catch it halfway through and turn. You know, like I said, a lot of the reference to the eyes are basically totally black. So actually, we wanted to get a little bit of kick of that caustics in some of the shots. You know, in some cases, it actually works quite well that he's kind of very black-eyed, because, you know, he's got this kind of slightly psychopathic feel to him. So yeah, we tried to make sure that we could actually get some warmth into him at some point, and you can see the kind of detail that the fur and the overall groom has gone into as well. All of this is based on kind of the client references, which were, you know, this guy in the top right was kind of for the fur, and then, you know, his face was a kind of mixture of male and female, because the males tend to have these big nodules on the side of their lips, and it was kind of decided that actually they were a bit ugly, and, you know, he needs to be able to look cute at the same time as kind of transition into this kind of scary character as well, a bit like the person whose demon he is. So yeah, and then the main thing that kind of really sells it, I suppose, is the face. We try and scour as much as we can the reference, you know, for expressions. You know, this guy doesn't actually talk, but you know, we built the kind of shapes, face shapes up as we would for pretty much all of our characters. You kind of see here that this is a male with this almost just growing those little nodules. So we kind of went down this route for the face, and the bigger ones, you know, look a bit ugly, and it was kind of, yeah, that was a design decision. So we take this reference and we use it to try and make our face shapes as kind of consistent as possible with reality, so that when the animators we give the animators the tools they need to really drive the performances. And you know, we get to something. This is our kind of our shape network. So you know, we've got this kind of recipe, I suppose, or we've got a list of ingredients, if you like, for the animators to then just kind of dial in. We call these composed shapes. So in the rig, when the rig gets built, it gets split automatically into left and right to give the animators control. you know, we work with the animators to get kind of really make sure the shapes are in a good place, in a pleasing shape that they like to pull, and you know, we kind of really go through their animation, and they kind of give us feedback, and they tell us what they can't hit. Like I said, this guy, he has a relatively small shape network. We've on various characters, we've got kind of, once it gets into decomposed shapes, when the rig split them out, they're kind of beyond 500 shapes. This guy doesn't actually talk, so he didn't have to be quite, the fidelity wasn't quite as necessary. You know, but we wanted to try and make sure that all of the shapes were kind of as realistic, and they kind of honored what the real monkey would do. You know, we tried to find some of those screaming references, and then we would try and make sure that, you know, with the animators, we'd kind of go in and try and make sure that they could achieve the shapes that they were trying to get to. We use the system which is called FACS, which is the facial action coding system, where every muscle of the face is broken down into action units, and you know, we build up that library of shapes that then can be kind of called on by the animators as required. You know, we also then kind of try and help animation to kind of, you know, we come up with the recipe for maybe this kind of snarl shape, screaming shape, and then we kind of can pass that information across and say, this is how we think it should be done, and then they'll kind of come back and say, well, actually we need it to do a bit more like this, and it's a huge collaborative endeavor. So yeah, that is the main. You know, we constantly, depending on animation feedback notes, they come to us and kind of tell us that they can't achieve a certain thing. So yeah, there's a lot of backwards and forwards all the way through. So yeah, we try. I've hidden the bottom. Normally the teeth and the tongue are driven by a bone joint in the jaw. Hence, otherwise they'd be floating at the moment. So I've just decided to hide them, but I think it hopefully illustrates the point. Yeah, so using that reference and yeah, the facial action coding system. This is kind of what I was trying to explain earlier. Yeah, each of these action units are broken down, and you know, they become the recipe for the animation at the other end. So I've gone too far, and this is a bit of a collage, I suppose, or you know, an edit of the final result. You know, the subtle animation, the kind of overall, the body dynamics that the animators have put into it. You know, we try and, like I said, emulate what is in reality. But as I kind of said to Tom earlier, you know, all of the kind of interaction objects, you know, the glass, the everything they sit on, the door had to be rebuilt. You know, everything was rebuilt around it. So, you know, as much as the creatures kind of get a lot of the kind of the interest, should I say, the kind of work, the amount of extra work on top of that is quite enormous. You know, even the alethiometer, which is actually a fantastic little prop that was built by the art department. Obviously, it didn't move, so you know, a lot of these extra little cogs and gears that actually do move when the kind of when the truth is being read in the show. You know, they were extra CG objects that we then had to kind of track in, and you know, the compers, lighters had to put it all together. With real bits of the plate, and that's it really. Has anyone got any questions if I rushed anything, please let me know.
Who's first? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's unmuted at the same time. I think there's.
Oh my God.
I was aware there was quite a lot to go through, so I just suddenly thought I just have to plow on with this. It's
incredible stuff. Wow.
Dan,
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
How long did Framestore work on the show? What was sort of how many months work?
It's a good question, actually. How long did I do? Basically, we finished it. We delivered it in. Was it? Originally, it was supposed to be a New Year's thing, I believe, last New Year's, and I think the idea was that it was always going to be on New Year's Day as a kind of one of these kind of family BBC things that they were. But when HBO took over, we lost a month because they wanted to put it in for Thanksgiving. So I understand anyway. So we delivered everything, I think, in September of last year. I think it was probably. It was shorter than a normal film kind of timetable. Yeah, it was kind of this hybrid. I mean, normally it would have been done by our TV department, but like I said, there was kind of 2,000 shots, and I think I can't remember what the proportion was of shots that had full CG creatures in it, and the birds that we created are very tricky, so always and like I said, we normally do one per show, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, and this one went, oh, we just need 7, it's fine. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing for us, but yeah, we pulled it across to the film pipeline just because we needed to be able to do repetitive shots, and the film pipeline is totally set up for that.
And signed on for 2nd season.
Yeah, we're working on it now. Yeah, it's ongoing. I think the same deadlines. It's going to be, hopefully, assuming it's kind of well received, and the last one seemed to have been. I think it's going to be, continual. That's the hope anyway. It's such a fun show to work on, just because it's a little bit quicker than film. There's definite. The creatures are great, really fun, and yeah, no, it's just a really nice thing to be involved in.
The creatures they definitely look film quality. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Has the 2nd series been shot already then, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's kind of it'd been shot pre-lockdowns,
right?
So actually, it's kept us all busy since we've been at home, basically, and before that as well. But yeah, there's definitely been some extra CG work pushed because of the inability to shoot.
Amber Alexander in the chat has asked, how do you move from Archviz? You mentioned you started in Archviz. How did you move from Archviz into working as a lead modeler at Framestore?
So originally, I studied industrial design and had no idea about this industry really at all. I ended up, I was kind of mainly CAD based, doing kind of more engineering style work, but I ended up working for a point of sale kind of retail interiors company. And then I basically just pushed while I was doing kind of CAD and kind of basically runner work, I pushed my more creative end, so kind of learning Max for starters, and marker rendering and all that kind of stuff that I'd learned as a student. When an opening came up as in the creative team, I kind of jumped on that. I realized, I did it for 4 years, I think, all in 2 different companies, and I kind of came to the conclusion that actually I loved the 3D stuff. I loved kind of pushing it, and actually I wasn't particularly good at interior design, especially when it came to makeup brands and things like that. I decided that if I was going to do it, I went and I needed to maybe retrain. So I went to Bournemouth at the NCCA.
Great, me too.
For a year. I think there's a lot of us. I went to Bournemouth for a year. Kind of pushed pushed quite hard to do my masters there, and then went straight to London after that. Basically picked up freelance work for the first few years, kind of lots of commercials, documentaries. Worked on this thing called Big Bigger Biggest with different sized bridges and skyscrapers and battleships and all this kind of stuff. And then slowly, I always thought I wanted to go into film. I never really kind of appreciated that commercials were such a big thing. And then, so after loads of kind of smaller jobs, it kind of grew into a larger job. I worked on building the VW configurator site website back in the day. So we used to scan cars and rebuild them. And then the mill contacted me because they needed car modelers basically before car companies used to actually give out. Now they actually give out CAD data, but before we had to actually just build it and kind of make sure it looked all right. So yeah, I started off there, and then kind of I spent 5 years at the mill, where I ended up being the kind of modeling texturing supervisor. And we did this orangutan for SSE a while ago, and pretty much straight after that, I got contacted by Framestore. And yeah, that's where I've been. They were doing the Andy Serkis Jungle Book, which became Mowgli. And that was albeit a kind of really long kind of production process. It was like such a great thing to be involved in.
You worked on Balloon.
Yeah. I mean, I started off as we were doing everything was kind of full CG, so it was like the whole environments, loads of environments. Obviously the creatures. We started off, I think there was kind of 4 leads on the show originally, and because of just the way that the production went, I ended up being the only lead left, last man standing by the end of it. So I think I probably worked on pretty much all of the London assets by the end of it, and I was leading, to start with, I was leading the kind of what they called the misfits, which was anyone who wasn't a wolf or a, what was the other thing? Probably should know this. Monkey, or yeah, there's a monkey team and a wolf team, and then the misfits were the kind of random others, which was great really, because that was Baloo and that was Bagheera and that was the Tabaki, the hyena. So really kind of different. And I kind of ended up being involved in kind of some of the design process by the end of, Baloo changed a bit, and the Naomi Harris's Nisha character changed a bit, and it was actually really great to be involved. And I think by the time I'd spent 3 years on it, I kind of felt like I had at least an opinion to share.
Going back to Yorick, the polar bear.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that polar bear's hair is transparent.
Yeah. Our external VFX suit was kind of explaining this, that actually it's all transparent, and you actually then have to then kind of, the bounces required to get it to look correct are, absolutely insane. And the density of the fur is, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we had a huge memory count for our snow leopard, because they have a similar, the density of snow leopard fur is, technically beyond a lot of what we can deal with. So, just trying to make sure that we could kind of make it look in the ballpark. And then they had, it being white as well is, just makes it infinitely harder. It was technically very, very challenging. That was something in kind of Montreal had to deal with, and did exceptionally well, obviously. So.
Another question, Dan. Just looking back on your career and to where you've got to today, any advice that you would give the audience tonight on, are there any tips that, thinking back to how you've got there, apart from a lot of hard work?
Well, yeah, there is, there's definitely been kind of some late nights, and I think it's just being open to, just specializing is all well and good. And I think, if you really want to, we have a lot of specialists that work. We have a lot of facial, people who just do faces, and they make, phenomenal face shapes. They make the movement look fantastic. I think that there's kind of two choices you have to make. You either you have to know exactly where you want to be, and then you kind of focus all of your energy into that place, or it's definitely, I found that when I was in commercials that you had to have a bit more of a generalist mindset, because teams are smaller. You had to kind of fault find, or you had to kind of problem solve a lot. So I was always kind of against the fact that I ended up having to do lighting and rendering, and I wanted to do way more modeling. But actually the knowledge, when it comes to kind of further on in my career, like having that kind of knowledge to have conversations with other departments about how we can as a team improve the quality of our work, I think is really important. So that's kind of not really an answer, I suppose, but I think you kind of have to, unless you have an absolutely kind of burning passion to do one thing, which I think some people do have. I think being open to being given different types of work, or kind of getting involved in different types of work. I started off as a hard surface car modeler, basically, as far as commercially, and then I knew I wanted to do creature work. So, but having had that exposure to things like cars, which are purely reflection driven, the surface quality has to be really good, and actually technically it's helped me out a lot, through any kind of modeling problem, really. So there's never a kind of bad thing to put yourself in, if that makes sense. It's it's all of this knowledge kind of it all has a place. I think, yeah.
Here's another question for you. The people often talk about VFX being a young person's game, and the long working hours and all that side of it. How are you finding being a family, or having a family and working on VFX? Is it still long hours, or how are you dealing with all that?
No, it's. I mean, it is like there's always deadlines. I mean, one thing I'd say from a film point of view is, because we sit at the beginning of the pipeline, actually we don't tend to come across the real crunch times. Since I moved into film, I can't actually remember working a weekend, and that's probably 5 years worth. I do work late. I kind of, if I'm going to choose, then I'll work late nights during the week to try and save my personal time. I mean, in commercials there was definitely all-nighters, and I was a bit younger then as well, which probably helped. It's the nature of anything that's deadline driven, is that you're at some point going to come up against those crunch times.
Has the lockdown situation in London changed that? Have you found yourself working more different hours or longer hours?
Not longer hours. I mean, later, but we've been kind of doing this kind of childcare, juggling, homeschooling nightmare. So it's kind of, I've been almost doing childcare in the morning, and then I've been kind of offsetting my day, so I finish late. So I've been doing later days than I would normally do, but I'd be starting at lunchtime basically, which has been it's interesting. But I mean, in general, I'm coming to the end of my project really, that I'm currently working on. So it's not quite so. There's not quite as much around. There's always times when you have to kind of put in a bit of extra. I mean, as much for your own, there's always the ability to kind of walk away from work that that's half cooked. But I think a lot of us have that kind of perfectionism element to us. So there's always a little bit of, I can make that a bit better, and then it's a case of kind of managing that impulse, and whether the shot requires it. And I think again that's where experience helps, where you can say, I can spend all the time on this and no one's going to see it. So putting the hours in where it really matters, and kind of think that's definitely something that's kind of come with experience, I suppose.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of the dailies that you have. is there anything insightful or hilarious that you can share with us about perhaps something that comes back from the animators back onto the modelers, or maybe from the creative team or the directors, or?
Yeah, I have to be slightly careful. No, actually, I mean, there's definitely departmentally, there's definitely different kind of viewpoints about what is kind of important. You know, animation is pose, it's kind of, you know, it's what delivers the performance. So, you know, there, and we're very much about this is, you know, we're quite structural, I suppose. You know, this is where the shoulder goes, and please don't move it like out of where a shoulder goes, type thing. We have those conversations, but they say, well, you know, it looks way cooler if I do that. And you're like, well, okay, I have to deal with those kind of, you know, their work is what kind of makes our work look good as well. So it's such a huge team kind of, you know, we just kind of constantly trying to improve what we do, and there's always kind of headbutting, you know, from different perspectives, but it's all for the positive, you know, the greater good type thing.
I have another question, Dan. This is more to do with the production, because his Dark Materials made use of puppets and puppeteers.
Yes.
Did you also use other real-time tech such as Unreal to really bring the actors into the environment using virtual sets, or?
I mean, from my understanding, and this was kind of more in Montreal's end, that they used kind of virtual cameras to really kind of set up. They rebuilt. In fact, there's quite a good BBC Click interview that our VFX suit did, and he kind of explained that they recreated the whole of the Bear Palace. I mean, it was built, and then they would have scanned it, and we'd kind of have a recreated version anyway, and then they actually pulled that into I think it was Unreal, and then the director DOP came to Framestore and actually kind of walked around and kind of set his shots that way. So we had kind of the animation, rudimentary kind of previous animation in a set, which he knew it was, and then he kind of set his shots and focal lengths based on the virtual real-time environment, and that's something that's definitely becoming more prevalent.
But are you finding, from the modeling point of view, that's helping inform or speed up your pipeline, or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, the quicker we know what we see in camera and the final shot, the better for us. You know, we don't have to, like I said, that we could burn time, you know, forever, like picking up all the little bits that we could work into, but actually, you know, if we put all of our energy into what we see in the final shot, the whole thing's just going to look better. And you know, the more we can iterate on stuff that actually makes a difference, you know, the less decisions we're making during production, you know, it makes the whole thing run smoother, and actually the quality ends up better, because, you know, you're not having to then kind of restart again every time the change is made. You know, at certain points, then changes are expected, you know, especially when you first see things in 3D. You know, we get a lot of kind of painted concepts, and some of them kind of make use of 3D, but there's a lot of kind of manipulation after the fact. Once we kind of get that concept, character or environment or whatever, there's always kind of some change, because, you know, it felt like it should be different in a way, you know. There's anything that removes that kind of ambiguity, I think, is always helpful. You know, any of the new projects that are coming in are definitely going to rely quite heavily on that, and we're making a huge kind of push for that to be part of our pipeline.
Cool.
I'm really interested by this idea that no one on the modeling and animation team knew who the hero characters were. I mean, was that a deliberate decision from the creative to say we want everyone to do the best they can for every character, or?
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's kind of, we knew that because of the way that the story works, and that the children's demons are kind of, they mutate, or they morph between different elements depending on the kind of child's feeling. So, you know, normally you could say, okay, that ermine or the pine marten is Pan, is Lyra's character. We knew that the golden monkey was going to be hero. We knew that the snow leopard had to be as good as and they were unchanging. But I think Pan basically became, he was a ermine, he was a pine marten, he was a Arctic tern, he was a silk moth, he was something else, and because we didn't know what the shots were necessarily, we didn't know how close we were going to get. So it was definitely a case of, normally we knew that he was going to spend most of his time as an ermine, and then actually framing kind of dictated that actually they swapped it out for a pine marten sometimes because it's just a bigger creature. But so we knew that they were, eventually we knew that they were going to be the ones that needed the most time, but we had to basically work up to a point where all of these possible long-bodied creatures, so like ferrets and various other things, they were all kind of brought up together until we knew that the shots, the shots that the kind of were going to get the most kind of scrutiny, which was ended up being the ermine and the pine marten in that instance. But then, for Yorick, we had Yorick and we had Yofa, both of which we knew were going to be hero. But then once you built those two, then we can kind of take a lot of that tech and then move it off to any of the armored bears behind. But then, you've obviously got a whole load of kind of extra armor, and it doesn't make it easier, but we try and keep all of those characters consistent in a way that they can share tech. So if one comes up, then hopefully we've got a quick way of kind of transferring all that extra information. It's trying to keep it as easy as possible, basically, so you're not doing the same thing over and over and over.
So, being the fact that the daemons are so intrinsic to the story and also to the character's story as their their partner, what's been the response from the actors in the show when they see the characters?
Yeah, really positive actually. I mean, we had a good couple of little videos from Ruth Wilson and Daphne Keane about kind of being very complimentary. And actually, Ruth Wilson actually came into the building to basically pitch her idea about what the monkey was and why he was like he was, and really pushed his character and how she saw it. So she was definitely very into it.
Her whole acting plays off the character and vice versa.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they kind of the puppeteers were pretty phenomenal as well. I think the guys that had done Warhorse previously as well. So they just the way they moved the puppets was kind of very close to how they were going to end up working in animation as well. So they were doing a few passes with the puppet, and then they would kind of take the puppet away and kind of redo that pass. But they knew where they were looking. They knew it wasn't this kind of weird kind of mismatched eye lines, or where we had to kind of then move the CG character up to find the eye line, and looking at tennis balls as usual. But there's that's what I guess that's their skill. But I think that it definitely helped. Having the puppets there really kind of just made the whole thing a little bit more solid.
I'd love to see a shot of what the actor sees and what's actually there in reality.
Oh really? I'm not sure I've got anything.
They've got these amazing puppets. Have you not seen them?
No.
Yeah. There's I'll find it for you.
And then, as Dan says, the movement of them, it's so realistic that, from an actor's point of view, it's phenomenal because you're just playing off these characters.
Right.
Sorry. Finding a bit for you.
It's when we look at modern television these days and the quality of what what Framestore is doing phenomenal.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so that was pretty consistent. And they were really kind of getting good. The body language kind of expression was brilliant.
Yeah.
Russell. Yeah, and these guys. So it starts with the puppet, and then
oh wow,
kind of replace and it hopefully gets better.
Wow, amazing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so it was yeah, it was really fun. But I mean, it's kind of, yeah, definitely, it's got to help the actors. And then I guess, you know, we were with the bear, we actually did a kind of session where we were kind of making sure it had to be a certain height, and then they were building this whole rig which was kind of driven by a person that Lyra could then sit on, and you know, so we could kind of take elements of her riding something that was the right height and the right size, and then eventually put like composite her back onto the CG bear as well.
Did the experience from the Jungle Book help a lot with?
Yeah, size and puppets and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a lot of kind of motion capture, or attempted motion capture on Jungle Book. I mean, a lot changed in that production, but I think that was kind of a little bit, yeah, it was a different kettle of fish, really. And the kind of interaction with Mowgli and the characters in Jungle Book was kind of much less than, you know, the Lyra and Yorick dynamic. I'm not sure that. I don't think he ever rides Baloo, as far as I can remember. But if he did, we rides Bagheera at one point, and then we had a digital Mowgli for that. But we never really had to do the same thing in that, you know, it was very kind of up close, and we were watching kind of Yorick with Lyra on his back or neck at the time. So yeah, we'd kind of, there was a lot of thought went into like where you'd actually ride a polar bear, and there was lots of conversations about where you'd actually do that, you know, biomechanically apparently. So apparently you ride them on the neck. Who knows?
You do figure this stuff out. No, a mechanical polar bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Luckily, those decisions had been made before I got involved.
Hey, Dan, we can't finish this conversation without talking about Baby Groot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was
This is the cutest.
That was a kind of happy accident, really, because during one of the Jungle Book hiatuses, during the production pauses, should I say, yeah, I managed to kind of sneak onto that. And originally, I was supposed to be doing some face shapes, and I'd literally just spent a whole load of time doing face shapes with Jungle Book. And I said, "Do you mind if I kind of jump onto this guy?" A friend of mine, Leon, he kind of took the face, and I took the body, and you know, so because he was on it, he was already on the show at that point, so I can't claim sole responsibility, unfortunately. But it was a really good, yeah, it was a really fun project, that, you know, kind of just trying to make it work as well. That's part of the thing I really enjoy, is the kind of problem solving end of it. And then, you know, got to do a bit of the design work for his plates on his body, which is cool. And then, yeah, we had that kind of whole initial sequence of the opening of the film, where he kind of, you know, the camera was literally just following him around. And that sequence was yeah, loads of fun. So, and the character went down so well. Yeah, so really nice thing to be involved in.
Yeah.
Has Baby Yoda thunder now, do you think?
Sorry?
Has Baby Yoda stolen the thunder now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone's making those instead now. It's the fan art. Actually, I don't think I ever saw any kind of Baby Groot fan art. I think everyone finds they look at the amount of wood detailing they have to do and go like, nah, I don't do that. Because I know the guy who made it, and he was kind of literally, you know, sculpting. You're like, nah.
It's more sort of a crystal ball question of someone who's been in the industry for a while. Where do you think it's going in like 5 years or 10 years time? Do you think it's changing, or are there any trends that you think might sort of occur more? Because essentially what you've shown us tonight is, and it's feature film on television, but where do we go from there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also feature film. Well, it's kind of as close as we can get to what we would put in a film, but also at 4K, which is bigger than we normally render our film. So now the levels of scrutiny have just kind of gone up and up. So
you're using the film as well, from the film side. You're taking all those things as well.
Yeah, which is kind of which is brilliant for kind of replicating, you know, the same thing over and over and over. It's not always quite as flexible, and sometimes you kind of need a kind of you need a kind of slightly different solution to certain problems. So the film pipeline's great for, you know, for doing 2,000 shots, or doing whatever it was. I can't remember what the actual shot count of CG was, but every now and again you think, you know, certain things can be done in a different way, and it's kind of trying to manage the way that those new features, because I mean things like, you know, other programs are kind of popping up all the time and different tech, and we're quite embracive, if that's even a word. We embrace like different technology as quickly as possible to try and see if it makes our job quicker, faster, better. You know, like, you know, marvelous designer for clothing, and, you know, any of the kind of substance, you know, kicks that we get, any of the benefits of any of those things that kind of speed up our process. You know, we're always kind of trying to test ways to improve and to make ourselves more efficient. So, I mean, that is definitely a thing. You know, efficiency and speed and quality. You know, as much as that triangle shouldn't live together, you know, it kind of has to a little bit. And we're always trying to push, like, we're constantly trying to push our work, like, internally as well. So I think, you know, with the Avengers work, from Infinity War and Endgame, you know, the quality of the facial work and the digital humans that they're creating, that are actually purely believable characters, and you don't even question the fact that they're there. You know, the performances they're managing to get, you know, that's now the benchmark. You know, the ability to actually replace or put, you know, anyone anywhere, you know, to recreate real digidoubles that are kind of going to hold up to full screen scrutiny rather than just in the background. I think that's the benchmark for most of the kind of top quality work. So yeah, the quality level is just going to keep pushing, I think, and so it should. I think it's kind of yeah, there's a lot of appetite for it, at least at our end anyway. So and like you say, kind of the transition of feature film VFX onto TV as well, just kind of hopefully opens up kind of new stories and new productions possibilities. You know, things that couldn't be told in a film that you want to be, you know, marquee level. And there's loads of companies that can really do that work now. So yeah, it's really exciting actually.
Well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Dan.
No problem.
Is there any more questions?
Well, I've got plenty, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed the process of creating. I just wanted to, like, in the beginning when you create like the skeleton, like the muscles, the skeleton, and how do you give that like a first draft version to the animators to test how the whole thing behaves, so you can get then a feedback from them and like rework what is.
I mean the anatomy, so the skeleton definitely, you know, as quickly as possible we try and, using the reference that I kind of put in the any of the kind of reference images that we find, we try and kind of make sure that we've kind of got our limb lengths as close as we can kind of guess underneath a whole load of fur half the time.
Yeah.
And then we kind of try and get that as quickly as possible through like a kind of we've actually got a word for it, but I can't think of it at this point. But we like basically a temp rig where they can stretch the bones around. Validation rig, sorry. We kind of put it through a validation process where they basically try and hit all those poses, and try and make sure that that's as solid as possible.
Well, don't you, Dan?
Sorry?
You want to make them a bit human as well, don't you, Dan? There must be like okay, you want to make it as much like an animal as possible, but you want to anthropomorphize them into being human as well, no?
For Dark Materials, it was actually the brief was like pure naturalism, so they weren't, you know, any of our talking characters. We were trying not to really kind of get them to enunciate, you know, from a facial performance point of view, and they were real. I suppose they were supposed to be real animals, basically. So we were trying not to do, you know, on Jungle Book there was definitely a huge amount of anthropomorphization. Because just the nature of that was the design, you know, that was the way it was pitched in the first place. But Dark Materials was kind of following more the kind of Lion King, Disney Jungle Book kind of brief of, you know, not documentary style, because there was definitely a design element to a few of the characters, but you know, close enough. You know, naturalistic movements, and what, you know, the kind of facial performance that an animal could deliver in, you know, kind of. Obviously, there's a bit of artistic license taken for some things, but you know, we were very early on. We were kind of told that these are going to talk like as if animals were talking, but in a way that wasn't kind of peanut butter on the tongue, you know, from, you know, whatever it was, The Incredible Journey or whatever it was. So yeah, that was the brief. So, you know, as much as possible, we actually try and push away from anthropomorphization if we're trying to create a creature, because, you know, monkeys and bears and things like that, they very quickly become man in a suit if you change the proportions or the pose to be too human.
And why do you hate the birds so much?
Oh, that's such a pain. I mean, it's like the monkey in the way that a lot of any of the reference you find is furred or it's feathered. What's actually underneath is so different from what you see on the outside, and actually they've got individual control of pretty much every feather. So even if you had the same bird reference, you can't guarantee that you'd get the same shape. It's really tricky. So yeah, folding a bird wing has become our kind of new kind of kryptonite.
Your kryptonite.
Yeah, it's yeah. Actually, we're getting quite good at it now, I think, hopefully. But it's not easy. There's a lot of things that have to stack up on each other, and you know, we model all the big flight feathers, and then everything else is kind of simulated into place. But there's a lot of feathers to simulate. It's like kind of creature effects. Yeah, headache all the time. Anyway.
Well, if anyone else has a question, I probably can ask questions till tomorrow, so I'll stop now. But yeah, we can keep this discussion going for ages.
There you go.
Dan, I've got your email. I'll just start handing you from. When's the next season start?
I think it's same time this year. So Thanksgiving, end of November, I think. I will double check that though.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure the idea was that it was every year at the same time. Like I said, I will double check that though, because
I'm sure everyone watching will be tuning in.
I hope so. Yeah, to beat last year's numbers.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Dan, so much for joining us, and everyone else as well. It was a pleasure. The guys left, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who, was part of it tonight. It was a great evening. I feel very inspired. Don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Apologies everyone for the technical mishap at the beginning. It won't happen again.
It's right, Nigel. We still did the show, so it's.
We did it. It was great and fantastic work all round. I think it's really exciting seeing from students to Archviz to high-end VFX. They all share a passion for CGI. And that's what tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So let's wrap it up with a big goodbye and like a massive thank you to everyone. And everyone, massive thank you to everyone who watched us tonight and stay with us. So and see you on the big show in September.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. I think it was incredible tonight, and thank you, Ivo, as well, and Nikos. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. I'll definitely make the cocktail.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, wait.
Mads and Emil, we're going to see more of them as they enter the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Let's stop that.